In my past life, out of the blue, my wife had a massive heart attack. A coworker rushed her to the hospital, but by the time I got there, she was already gone. I couldn't handle the shock and blacked out. When I came to, she'd been cremated. There wasn't a moment to mourn because debt collectors were already pounding on my door. That's when I discovered she had racked up millions in loans, and according to her will, I was the only one left to deal with it. A decade later, I was hunched over, scavenging through trash on the streets when I saw my supposedly dead wife cruising in a fancy car, laughing with her first love. She flashed a grin, tossed me $100 bill, and thanked me for all I'd done. My body, worn out from years of stress, couldn't take it, and I died right there from sheer rage. When I opened my eyes again, I was back to the day she had her heart attack. Bro, you gotta chill and look after yourself. We did everything to save her, my sister's friend, a doctor named Gloria, said regretfully, using medical jargon I couldn't follow. She helped me sit on the couch. Don't look too hard, man. You can't handle it. I glanced at my reflection in the mirror. No scars from years of hard work on my hands. Taking a few deep breaths, I finally realized I was given a second chance. In my last life, when I heard about Melissa's heart attack, I dashed to the hospital, ran through 3 red lights, but still arrived too late, clutching the death certificate. I blamed myself endlessly, banging my head against the wall for not taking her to work personally. Maybe it was the intense grief or the head banging, but I passed out in the hospital. When I came to, Melissa was already cremated, leaving me with just a small urn. I kept hugging the urn at home, refusing to eat or drink. Instead, lawyers from big loan companies started knocking on my door. That's when I found out I was the sole heir in Melissa's will. I tried to get a handle on the finances and discovered that Melissa's business had been sold off by my mother-in-law Laura, leaving me buried in millions of debt. Our house was soon seized by the court. With nowhere to go, I turned to Laura for help, but she shut me out. The following days were brutal. I ended up living in a tiny shed with debt collectors visiting almost daily. I juggled 4 jobs a day, but even with court actions, I could barely scrape by and had to tough it out with untreated illnesses. Then one day while picking up trash, I saw Melissa, who was supposed to be dead for 10 years, driving around and laughing with her first love. I rushed over to get a better look. Melissa didn't hide who she was, teasing me about looking older than I felt, and tossed me $100, thanking me for my decade-long efforts. I exploded with anger and died right there, while Melissa just drove off like nothing happened. Reflecting on this, I made up my mind. Last time, she faked her death. This time, I was going to make sure she was truly gone. Gloria kept pushing me to drink some water, but I snapped out of it and refused, remembering that in my past life, drinking that water made me pass out. I was almost certain something was in it to make me miss Melissa's cremation. I set the glass down and headed to Melissa's bedside, ignoring Gloria's attempts to stop me. I lifted the sheet and saw Melissa's face still had a healthy glow, her breathing steady. In my previous life, I was too heartbroken and foolish to notice. I raised my hand and slapped her hard. Before we dive back into the story, we're so close to hitting 1,000 subscribers. It would mean the world to me if you could subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for your support. Back to the story. Melissa didn't budge. It seemed she was scared I'd find out she was faking, so she was under anesthesia. This actually helped my plan. Gloria screamed, "Bro, don't be so harsh, even if you're pissed. We can explain everything," thinking about my past pain. My anger flared, and I kept hitting Melissa all over. Seeing Gloria almost break down, I acted like I hated Melissa for not following through. "I told you not to stay up late to get checked out. Why didn't you listen? Now what am I supposed to do since you left me alone?" Gloria thought I was just venting my grief by hitting her, but seeing how rough I was being, she started to worry. "Bro, take it easy. Sister Melissa will feel the pain." I stopped, looking at Gloria like she was clueless. "Why? Do dead people even feel pain?" Gloria hesitated, regretting her words, and awkwardly smiled. "No, I just—" She couldn't finish her sentence. Not wanting to argue, I grabbed my phone and dialed a number. Yeah, I want to donate her organs. She just died. Get here fast. Gloria tried to stop me, but because of her role, she quickly sent a message. Within minutes, the organ donation team arrived. I put on a sad face. My wife was always so kind. With her sudden death, I hope her life can continue by saving others. The donation officer shook my hand firmly. Thank you on behalf of those families. Which organs would you like to donate? I glanced at Gloria and sighed. She had a heart attack, so I'm not sure what can be donated. Just do an autopsy. If nothing's usable, donate her body for research. Gloria stepped in. No, bro. Melissa didn't want to donate her organs. She told me that. We gotta respect her wishes. I'm Melissa's husband. I can decide. You and Melissa are just friends. No blood ties. We both know who decides here. Besides, every minute you wait, the organs get worse. You're a doctor too, right? You want to save lives? Gloria, step aside, the donation staff insisted. Gloria refused, saying, I just talked to Aunt Laura. Let her see Melissa one last time. I nodded. I never planned to donate Melissa's organs because I knew she'd be found alive as soon as they opened her chest. My goal wasn't to expose her fake death, but to make it real. I did this to force out Victor, or maybe Laura, making them witness Melissa's death themselves. This would also serve as proof against them if they tried to frame me later. Laura burst in, her hair still curled from the salon. Seeing Melissa still on the bed, she sighed with relief, then slapped me hard. What's your deal? Why did Melissa marry you? My daughter died because of you, and you still want to dissect her? If anyone touches her, I'll kill their whole family. Laura forcefully chased the donation team away. No donations. Let someone else handle it. The staff left reluctantly. Gloria sighed and covered Melissa with a white cloth. Laura sat down, cursing me. You worthless jerk. Instead of mourning and burying her, you want to use her for research? If you want to be a good person, donate yourself. You can die now, and I'll donate you all. I sighed heavily. Mom, I'm sorry. I was just trying to... Laura slapped me again. Don't even think about it. Go back. I'll take her to the crematorium later. I fell silent, kneeling on the floor and handing Laura the water Gloria had given me. Laura, not suspecting anything, drank it in one gulp, her mouth dry from all the yelling. Gloria didn't have time to stop her. Within minutes, Laura passed out from the water. Cold sweat broke out on Gloria's face. Bro, you're not trying to donate her organs again, right? I shook my head and laid Laura flat on the sofa. Of course not. Mom said no, so I'm not continuing. Gloria sighed in relief. Aunt Laura fainting might not be good. You should take her to the ER. I'll handle Melissa's cremation. No, it's not right to bother you with this. You're a doctor and know better than I do. Take care of my mom while I handle the cremation. I called the crematorium for an immediate pickup. Gloria argued, There's no rush. Let Aunt Laura wake up. Melissa isn't going anywhere. I replied, Gloria, Melissa is dead. The living matter more. You and Melissa were like sisters, but you're not even sad and keep saying weird stuff. What do you want? Gloria was frantic, trying to wake Laura, but Laura stayed unconscious. By the time the crematorium staff took Melissa away, Gloria couldn't hold back anymore. She grabbed my sleeve, her voice shaky. Bro, I think I saw Melissa move. Let's try to save her. I held up the death certificate. Gloria, think about it. If Melissa's alive, what responsibility does your hospital have? And yours? This is murder. You recklessly disregarded a life. The hospital might shut down and you'd go to jail. Did you really see her move? Gloria was at her wit's end and couldn't argue. I sneered, shook off her hand, and followed the crematorium's car. Gloria cried out and started making calls. I looked at Melissa on the stretcher and couldn't help but laugh. In my past life, when I saw Melissa on the street, even after 10 years, she looked almost the same, with barely any signs of aging. I threw myself in front of her car, wanting to recognize her, to see if it was really her, to show how much I missed her. Melissa squinted and took a moment to recognize me, laughing. It's you? How come after 10 years you look older than my grandpa? My voice was shaky, hunched over, not looking like a 50-year-old. I stammered, You weren't dead? Melissa and Victor, sitting next to her, laughed heartily. I faked my death to get rid of you, Melissa continued, but didn't finish her sentence. What else was there to understand? If she had asked for a divorce, I couldn't have refused, but a direct divorce would mean splitting her assets and her reputation as a cheater. Faking her death left all debts to me and let her transfer everything to be with Victor under a new identity. Too angry to speak while Melissa kept mocking me. At the hospital, I heard you talking. I remember how you cried, how a man can cry like that. It's hilarious. Ha ha ha. Amid her mocking laughter, I clutched my chest and collapsed. Victor shouted, "Wife, she's not trying to scam us, is she? Let's go." Melissa also cursed and drove away, not caring about my fate. My last memory was watching her car disappear before everything went dark. Still lost in painful memories, I noticed Melissa's fingers move slightly. It looked like she realized she was about to be cremated and the anesthesia was wearing off. I urged the driver to speed up. "Driver, hurry up. My mother-in-law is trying to donate my wife's body. I just want her to leave and come back whole." The driver stepped on the gas, speeding up significantly. I leaned over Melissa's chest, listening to her steady heartbeat, and said everything I couldn't in my past life. "I know you're not dead. I know you cheated and staged this whole act to run away with Victor, leaving me with the debts, but I don't hate you. I decided to respect your wish. Since you want to die, I'll make sure you're cremated ASAP. You might be the first person to be cremated alive. You might wonder why I'm doing this or how I know all this. Doesn't matter now because I've lived through today before. In my past life, I believed you and lived a miserable life, so don't blame me. You owe me this." Melissa's fingers trembled slightly. She couldn't move, but tears started streaming down her face. I wiped them away. "Already crying? You'll have plenty of time once you're in the crematorium." My phone kept ringing nonstop with calls from Gloria and Laura, but I was too grief-stricken to answer. Thanks to the driver's speed, we reached the crematorium in 20 minutes, usually a half-hour trip, but there were many people there, and it would take at least an hour for Melissa's turn. I frantically walked around until I found the person in charge. My wife had a sudden heart attack. My mother-in-law fainted and is being treated in the hospital. Please let me cremate her first. I don't want my mother-in-law to suffer too. The staff had never dealt with someone wanting to cut in line for cremation. He hesitated. "I understand you're in a hurry, but others have been waiting too. It's not fair to let you skip the line." Despite his words, he subtly reached out for money. Knowing time was critical, I transferred him 2,000 yuan. "Please help me out. I'm an orphan. My wife and mother-in-law have been good to me. I can't lose my mother-in-law too." With the extra incentive, Melissa cut the line and was pushed into the cremation chamber within 10 minutes. Just as the staff was about to hit the incineration button, I stopped him. I couldn't let him be part of this and wanted to take revenge myself. After insisting, the staff let me press the button. At that moment, Laura and Gloria's anxious voices echoed from the entrance. "Stop! Don't cremate her!" Laura, possibly still dazed or in shock, collapsed at the entrance. "Stop! Bring my daughter out!" Gloria grabbed my hand as I was about to press the button. "Bro, wait! Aunt Laura has something to say to Melissa." Laura, panting heavily, shouted, "Get out! I won't let you cremate my daughter. I'll do it myself. You, take her out." At this critical moment, they still wanted to continue their fake death plan. I knelt down, speaking sorrowfully. "Mom, Melissa is gone. Let her rest in peace. I'm her husband. I won't leave." Our argument drew attention from many onlookers. The staff, puzzled, said, "What kind of tragic play is this? The crematorium isn't a place for this nonsense." He then moved to press the button. Gloria and Laura, desperate, lunged forward to stop him, their faces twisted with fear. The staff, startled, instinctively stepped aside. Gloria and Laura, unable to halt their momentum, fell onto the button, and flames instantly engulfed Melissa. "Ah! Ah!" Two screams echoed, and everyone looked at Gloria and Laura, but I kept my eyes on Melissa inside the crematorium. The anesthesia on Melissa must have completely worn off. I vaguely saw her mouth open and her hands stretch out, but the noise outside was too loud for anyone to notice. After a minute, everyone turned back to look at the crematorium. The staff pointed in amazement, whispering, This is the first time I've seen a hand reach out so high, it really looks like a living person. Usually there's only a slight muscle reaction. It's a good thing it's daytime, otherwise I'd think it was a ghost. I wiped away non-existent tears and tried to keep my composure. My wife loved her mother-in-law the most. She must have heard her and tried to sit up to see her one last time. I wiped my eyes and said to the crematorium, "Rest in peace, my dear wife. Don't worry, I'll take good care of Mom and make sure she joins you soon." As I spoke, Melissa's hand fell back down, seemingly dead for good. I breathed a sigh of relief, feeling the suffering from my past life vanish. Gloria, ignoring the collapsed Laura, stumbled over and was horrified by what she saw inside the crematorium. She desperately pressed the incineration button. "Why won't the fire stop? Put it out!" The staff, seeing such a distressed family member for the first time, quickly pushed Gloria aside. "We understand you're grieving, but the dead can't come back to life. Acting like this won't bring her peace." That's right, and this is an automated crematorium. Once it starts, it has to burn completely before it can be opened. Please, calm down. Gloria, pale as a ghost, collapsed onto the floor, muttering, "It's over. It's all over." Then she looked at me. "Bro, why didn't you answer your phone when we called?" I sighed, too distraught to answer any calls. All I could think about was what to do now that Melissa was gone. Besides, cremating after death is normal. Why were you trying to stop it? Laura crawled to my feet. "You bastard! You killed my daughter. Give me back my daughter's life." I sighed again, but didn't help Laura up. Instead, I held up the death certificate. "Mom, I know you're upset, but Melissa's death has nothing to do with me. She died of a sudden heart attack, not because of anything I did. If you don't believe me, ask Gloria. She tried to save Melissa and issued the death certificate. Isn't that right, Gloria?" I turned to look at Gloria. She was speechless. Should she say Melissa wasn't dead? Then how did the death certificate come about? Say Melissa was dead? Laura wouldn't believe it. Seeing my point, Laura suddenly grabbed Gloria's throat. "You killed my daughter. She was alive, and you issued a death certificate. Now she's been cremated. This is all your fault." Feigning shock, I covered my mouth. "What? Mom, what are you saying? Melissa wasn't dead?" I quickly turned to look at Melissa. She was still being cremated. No wonder I thought I saw her fingers move when she entered the crematorium. I thought it was just my imagination. I couldn't believe it was real. Upon hearing my words, Gloria desperately pulled her hair and after much mental preparation finally spoke. "It's true. Melissa isn't dead. She was just anesthetized. If you had waited a few more minutes, she would have woken up. I still felt the need to escalate things." "What? Are you saying Melissa was cremated alive and conscious?" This was horrifying, and everyone present was stunned. The staff's faces turned pale. No wonder, just as I started the fire, she reached out her hand. "My God, this is murder." Hearing this, Laura rolled her eyes and fainted. I quickly reacted, slapping Gloria across the face. "Gloria, are you insane? How can you joke about something like this? My wife is dead, and you're making up lies." Gloria, shocked by the slap, stammered, "I'm not lying." I sneered. "Not lying? Then tell me, why was my wife anesthetized? Why did you issue a death certificate? If you're going to lie, at least make it plausible." Gloria didn't know how to explain, and the staff, thinking she was joking, went back to their work. As Melissa's cremation concluded, I angrily left the crematorium with her ashes. Before leaving, I told Gloria, "You scared Mom into fainting for no reason. Take her to the hospital." It wasn't that I didn't want to stay and see Laura's reaction when she woke up, but I had more important things to handle. I placed Melissa's ashes prominently in the living room and quickly contacted a lawyer to start the process of inheriting Melissa's company and estate. In my past life, I was too grief-stricken. By the time I realized the company was gone, if I didn't act fast this time, Laura would surely seize control once she woke up. I couldn't waste this second chance. After completing the paperwork, I thought about the millions in debt. Knowing Melissa, she wouldn't have given all that money to Victor or Laura, but I checked, and there was no such money in her name. She must have hidden it. Following Melissa's spending records, I found a garage she'd rented. At the address, I discovered hidden cash. I quickly contacted the bank and loan companies, paying off part of the interest and settling the loans. With everything done, I lay on the sofa with a glass of red wine, smiling at Melissa's photo on the wall. Thank you, dear wife. Now I have money, a house, and a company, with no debts. I'll live a carefree life, even better than in your past life. I drank heavily and fell asleep on the sofa. The next morning, I was awakened by a knock on the door. Rubbing my aching head, I opened it to see Gloria and Laura, accompanied by a man who looked a few years older. It was Victor, looking pissed and holding a 6 or 7-year-old boy who resembled Melissa. Was this a child born before our marriage? No wonder Melissa refused to have kids after we wed. She already had one with her first love. The three of them looked sorrowful, with dark circles under their eyes from sleepless nights, followed by a few police officers. Laura walked into the house pointing at me. Officer, this man cremated my daughter alive. Arrest him and cremate him too so he knows what it feels like. I had seen this drama coming, but didn't expect it so fast. I sighed. Mom, can you stop making jokes? I took out the death certificate. Officer, this is my wife's death certificate. My mom couldn't handle the loss and might have some mental issues. The officer examined the certificate. This seems fine. I sighed again. My wife and I were married for 3 years, and our relationship was strong. When she passed, I didn't want her body to decay, so I cremated her immediately. Was that wrong? Laura clutched her chest. You're lying. My daughter despised you long ago. If Victor hadn't been unable to divorce back then, Melissa would never have married you out of spite. You did it on purpose. You cremated her just to get her inheritance and company. I confirmed it with the company yesterday. What else do you have to say? I looked incredulous, my eyes red with tears. Mom, you can insult me, but my love for Melissa was real. If we had no feelings for each other, why would she make me the sole heir of her estate? Laura couldn't refute this, so I continued. You say Melissa was still alive? How could such a big hospital fail to determine if someone is dead or alive? Gloria told me herself that Melissa was brain dead and her heart had stopped. What living person is like that? Laura signaled Gloria to speak, but Gloria kept her head down. It made sense. If she admitted the death certificate was fake, the consequences would be severe. It was better to stick with the lie. The situation was deadlocked. Victor tugged on Laura's sleeve, and she stopped talking. He's right. Melissa wasn't dead. I'm Melissa's boyfriend. We broke up years ago due to a misunderstanding, and she married you out of spite. I recently got divorced and came with my child to find Melissa. She realized she still loved me and wanted to fake her death to leave you. But you cremated her, Victor hesitated. Don't blame Melissa. She didn't do it to hurt you. She was a kind person. Now that Melissa is gone, we just hope you can accept this child and give him the inheritance he deserves. I took a sip of water and mimicked Laura's tone. You're lying. Then I sadly turned to Laura. Mom, I know you didn't get along with Melissa. She didn't leave you anything in her will. So you brought this child to frame Melissa and claim her inheritance, didn't you? Laura was almost driven to madness by my words, but for the sake of money, she held back. You're lying. I got along well with Melissa. This is her child. I'm absolutely sure. I took out Melissa's will. Mom, why are you lying? If you got along well with Melissa, why isn't your name in her will? Why did she leave everything to me? Laura was speechless. Victor hesitated. He couldn't exactly say that Melissa made me her heir to saddle me with debts. I glanced at the child standing behind Victor and smirked inwardly. So that's why my wife, who pretended to be good for 3 years, suddenly stopped because her first love and son came back. However, I didn't feel sad since I'd already died once. I said calmly, you claim this child is Melissa's? Then provide evidence like a legally recognized paternity test or a birth certificate. Victor and Laura were taken aback. There's no paternity test because the child was born at home, so there's no birth certificate. But he is Melissa's child. I waved my hand. Officer, do you see what's happening here? They know my wife has been cremated and brought a child to claim the inheritance. They even falsely accuse me of cremating my wife alive. Their statements are completely contradictory, Laura. Anxious, Laura said, I can take a DNA test with the child to prove I'm his grandmother, which would indirectly prove he's Melissa's child. The officer shook his head. That won't suffice. It only proves you're related to the child, but it doesn't establish Melissa's relation to the child. Even if it did, it wouldn't prove Melissa was your only child. I held back my laughter. Part of the reason I insisted on cremating Melissa quickly was to avoid such situations. It turned out to be the right move. Laura and Victor exchanged glances, and Victor gritted his teeth. It doesn't matter whose child it is. Melissa wasn't dead. You cremated her alive. He's a murderer. He can't inherit Melissa's estate. Victor was right about that, but he needed to prove I was a murderer first. I suddenly looked at Gloria. Gloria, tell us, was Melissa dead or alive? You're a doctor with a family. Think carefully before you speak. You might not remember, but I do. It was you and Mom who pressed the incineration button. If Melissa was alive, then you're murderers too. I turned their actions of trying to stop the cremation into pressing the button on purpose. Laura didn't even have time to call me a liar. Gloria gritted her teeth, avoiding Laura and Victor's gaze. She was really dead. I breathed a sigh of relief, but Victor raised his phone. I suspected you'd lie, so I brought evidence. Victor played a video on his phone showing him, Melissa, Gloria, and Laura sitting on a couch discussing the fake death plan. Melissa's voice, as annoying as in my past life, came from the phone. I'll get anesthetized. You find a way to knock out my husband and tell him I've been cremated. I'll give you $1 million once it's done. The video wasn't complete and didn't include the part where they discussed making me shoulder the debts. Gloria crouched down, at a loss for words. I didn't know. Victor seemed relieved. I wasn't lying. You killed Melissa, so you should go to jail. The inheritance should go to Auntie. I acted frightened and didn't speak, brewing my emotions to appear genuinely sad. Not pretending. Officer, I want to report them. These 3 planned my wife's fake death without telling me. I was devastated and didn't know she was alive. I pointed at Gloria and Laura. They knew I planned to donate my wife's organs and cremate her, but they didn't tell me she wasn't dead. They did it on purpose, so I unknowingly cremated my wife and then came to claim the inheritance. I asked Laura and Victor. I knew my wife had passed away, so I followed the normal procedure to cremate her. Was that wrong? Clearly, it wasn't. They hadn't expected me to speak so clearly. They thought I'd break down upon learning the truth and be easily manipulated, but I had already died once. I was no longer the naive and foolish person I was in my past life. From the moment I woke up, I knew exactly how to handle each step ahead. With a choked voice, I continued, I wanted to donate her organs. Mom, you were there. Why didn't you tell me the truth when you refused? If it was just about a divorce, why wouldn't I agree? You deceived Melissa, made her believe your lies, and chose to fake her death. Then you deliberately cremated Melissa, making me the villain who sent his own wife to the crematorium. How cruel can you be? Laura stammered. Melissa insisted that you must believe it, so I had to stop the organ donation and couldn't tell you the truth. I took out my phone. Then what about this? You called me on my way to the crematorium, proving you knew I was going to cremate Melissa. I was too heartbroken to answer. But why didn't you send a message? When I got to the crematorium, Melissa hadn't been cremated yet. Why didn't you tell me the truth then? Instead, you caused a scene and pressed the incineration button yourselves? Laura and Gloria were speechless, but I knew they thought they had time. They believed they could distract me at the crematorium and still succeed. Desperation breeds bold moves. This drama ended without a conclusion, with each side standing firm. The police took us all to the station for temporary detention pending investigation. After a few days of investigation, the police found out that I was indeed a simple husband, unaware of Melissa's affair. I never questioned Melissa's business trips, social engagements, or checked her phone. Neighbors, friends, and colleagues confirmed we were a loving couple with no signs of discord. Home surveillance showed no arguments between us. The police couldn't know I'd been reborn. Based on the evidence, how could such a loving husband kill his wife? Laura, Gloria, and Victor's statements were full of holes. They had countless opportunities to tell me Melissa wasn't dead, but waited until after the cremation, especially Gloria and Laura, who saw Melissa enter the crematorium but still didn't speak up, even pressing the button themselves. They claimed it was unintentional, but who would believe that? Not only that, the initial fake death incident was already extremely alarming, so the investigation concluded that I was an innocent, grieving husband, while the other three were charged with attempted murder. 6 months later, they were found guilty and sentenced to life imprisonment. Laura wasn't so lucky. She died of a heart attack upon hearing her sentence. Gloria's husband divorced her and left with their children, devastated by her actions. Rumor has it Gloria attempted suicide several times in prison, but failed each time. As for Victor, he contacted me several times, begging me to visit him in prison. When I ignored him, he started writing letters, pleading with me to raise the child for Melissa's sake. I sent him a letter back, informing him that the child had been sent to an orphanage. I'm no saint. I couldn't raise the child of someone who conspired to kill my wife. I then sold the house and used the inheritance Melissa left me to buy a larger, better located property. I kept Melissa's ashes with me, believing that if there is an afterlife, she would see how happy I am now.